All right, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for coming into our Q&A with Emily Caire today. Emily is going to be joining us from the Student Health Center. She is a registered dietitian on campus. My name is Paul. I'm the Assistant Director for Fitness and Wellness with LSU University Recreation. We're really excited for this opportunity today. This is an opportunity for us where so often we put out content at making sure that all of our patrons and users and participants at the UREC get an opportunity to get some good workouts in and maybe learn some new things about exercise, fitness, wellness, and their overall well-being. Well, this is a new opportunity for us to gather some information. So over the last few days, we've been asking questions of our member body to go ahead and ask us, hey, what do you want to know about nutrition? What do you want to know about well-being? And we'll do our best to help answer those questions. So this is a great opportunity for us with Emily to answer those questions and to continue this conversation together so that while we're all separated in our own little areas right now, to have these discussions and have these conversations to kind of better us individually and then as a group together as a part of that LSU community. So Emily, I'll go ahead and give you the floor here. Excited to hear what you have for us today.
Awesome. Thanks, Paul. Yeah, I just wanted to start off with saying thank you again to you, Paul, and to UREC for coordinating this effort. I can definitely use all the help I can get with technology, and just really excited to be able to collaborate and engage online in a safe way. And as mentioned, my name is Emily Caire. I'm a registered dietitian at the Student Health Center, and I have been a dietitian for almost 14 years. I have been working at LSU Student Health Center for a little over 4 years. And as part of my role as a dietitian at the health center, I do individual nutrition counseling with students, a lot of times on just general wellness, sometimes weight management, sometimes we talk about disordered eating or any other nutrition related issue or concern. And then Paul, I might need some assistance with sharing my screen. Is that something that I can do on my end? Just click the little green box. Let's see. It says host disabled participant screen sharing. All right, well, while we try and figure out how to screen share, I'm going to talk a little bit more about, I wanted to mention that the Student Health Center, for a lot of students might be aware of the medical services that we have to offer, but we have 3 main departments that students interface with: medical, mental health services, and wellness and health promotion. And we're really excited to be able to offer telehealth appointments. So if you're curious to learn more about that, you can definitely check out our website. I'm gonna go ahead and see if I can share my screen now. So I can go through a couple of slides that I have, just to provide a little context. Let's see if it'll let me play the PowerPoint. I don't know if it'll let me play it, but I'll just go. There we go, success. So the Student Health Center website, lsu.edu/SHC, will provide you with any additional information that you might be curious about to learn about the services that are offered, as well as how you could schedule a telehealth appointment. And I also, in some conversations with Paul, have mentioned that I have had some telehealth appointments with students and was really excited to make them aware that UREC has virtual fitness classes. So I'm just really excited that there are a lot of different options and services that we're able to provide to students remotely. So that's really awesome. I basically kind of wanted to just briefly start off with a little nugget about setting realistic goals. You could probably have a whole presentation about this, so I'm going to just talk about it briefly. But I usually compare long-term goals to a staircase, with our long-term goal potentially being at the top and we might be at the bottom. We can't just leap to the top of the stairs. We will likely fall flat on our face, and that is not ideal, and it doesn't feel good either. So we want to remember that we want to have a good foundation and then take small steps to get to that long-term goal. Sometimes we have setbacks and we work our way back up. That being said, I definitely have noticed social media and maybe just even comments that I've heard from friends or family members, just kind of some messaging in social media that I think might be putting a little bit of pressure on individuals to feel like they need to make a lot of changes right now. And I think it's really important that I encourage healthy and realistic expectations in terms of goals. And there's so many worries right now and so many fears right now. So I don't want anybody to feel more anxious than we already do if they're feeling like they're struggling to achieve some health or wellness goal. So be kind with yourself, have some grace for yourself, and just try to be aware of any judgments that you might be having toward yourself about making changes if you're struggling. So we don't want you beating yourself up and causing yourself to feel worse or have more anxiety. But I want to just set that tone so that we're on the same page there. But I did go through some of the questions that were submitted and feel like a lot of the slides that I have here will cover some of those questions. And hopefully at the end here, we'll open up for some other questions as well. But hopefully we'll cover the questions y'all sent in. So I wanted to start off with talking a little bit about meal timing and really avoiding skipping meals. So I have lots of clients that talk to me about being hungry, having irregular hunger levels, being really hungry or not very hungry, or lots of clients that are asking me right now, how do I stop snacking all day long since I'm home? And one of the most important things that we can do is address true physical hunger. Even just a lot of people that are trying to diet might be skipping meals, thinking that's an ideal thing to do, but we want to make sure we address physical hunger. So the recommendations that I have are trying to eat within 1 hour of waking, and then roughly every 3 to 4 hours or so after that point, trying to have a meal or a snack. If you're nowhere close to this, don't panic. It's a long-term goal, but it does help regulate blood sugar levels, which in turn helps us manage hunger in a more ideal way, as well as help us focus. And I think everybody needs help with that when we're sitting in front of screens all day long, okay? And the other part of that is when we're addressing our true physical hunger, it makes it a little bit easier, not necessarily entirely easier, but a little bit easier to manage mental and emotional hunger. So we want to take that physical hunger part out of the equation, and this is one of those components. In addition to that, I have included some of some of that foundation work that I mentioned earlier that we want to have about basic nutrition. So I like ChooseMyPlate.gov is a good resource for sound nutrition advice. There's a lot of terrible nutrition advice that exists. And what this image represents is really how we would like our food groups to more or less be distributed throughout the course of a day. So every meal and snack might not necessarily have all of these components, and I'll talk about some more recommendations about that in a minute. But more or less, at the end of the day, it'd be ideal if it was broken down like this. There are a few things that I'd like to mention that are not included in this graphic. So you see I have a little oval there for the fats category that I think could be included in the middle of the plate. It is assumed that it's included in your food or in your cooking in some way, but I think it's still helpful to mention that as a whole separate piece. And I'll talk a little bit more about fats in just a second. And then, of course, I have a water bottle there, and we want to make sure that we're well hydrated. So I think that could be included here as well. And then there's another category that I like to call the extras. And the extras would be things like sweets, desserts, fries, chips, regular soda, alcohol. They're not required for a balanced, healthy diet, but all foods can fit into a balanced, healthy diet. We don't need to completely eliminate anything unless we have a true physical food allergy. It's really just about working those things in moderation. We don't want our extras to take up a giant part of our overall plate for the day, but it can be in addition to a balanced meal plan. But again, I can't stress enough the all foods can fit mentality and really trying to pull away from labeling foods as good or bad. It's all about moderation, which I know isn't very exciting, but it is what it is. As far as water is concerned, I mentioned I would talk about that briefly as well. Our fluid needs are really individually based and will depend on our weight, activity level, how much we're potentially sweating, or if we're sick. All of those things can impact our fluid needs. A minimum, though, I like to go by for adults is a minimum of 64 ounces a day. So that's 8-ounce glasses. However, many people need more than that. So I feel like that's a good place to start if you're far below that, to gradually work your way to that point. And just having a water bottle visible with you throughout the day can really help remind us to drink more water. And then another added bonus with being well hydrated is it can also help us to reduce the confusion between hunger and thirst. So sometimes I have clients that are snacking often through the day or feeling like they're hungry even when having balanced meals, but maybe they're not well hydrated. So another important reason to stay hydrated. I also wanted to touch on fats. I had a question about fats that was submitted. So two main categories, really the saturated and trans fats would be one category, and we have the unsaturated fats as well. And ideally for heart health, we would lean towards the unsaturated fats more often. It doesn't mean we can't include some of those other fats in moderation. It would just be ideal to lean more towards those unsaturated fats. So that's going to be your like olive oil, nuts, seeds, avocados, and those types of things. And another tip that I have when it comes to, again, managing hunger and feeling full and satisfied is taking the balance of the plate, but we also want to look at how we build our meals and snacks. And I recommend typically having at least 3 food groups at a meal and at least 2 food groups at a snack. And what this does is make our meals and snacks more complex, so it takes longer for our body to digest it, break it down, so it keeps us feeling fuller longer. So when you pair that with the timing component, it really does keep our blood sugar levels more even, manage hunger levels, and again, help minimize that mental and emotional hunger that we might be experiencing, especially these days. So I have a little brief just visual of what that could look like here. So you can see the oatmeal, banana, and the almonds. We have 3 food groups there. So that might be a breakfast. As well as the image below it. You could have some whole grain bread and peanut butter and a banana. That could be any fruit, that could be any grain, that could be any nut or nut butter. It doesn't have to be those specific things. On the other side, those look more like snack options to me. You see the celery and baby carrots, so those are both veggies, and then your hummus there. So those look more like snack options to me, might be 2, might be 3 food groups. So those are some like just visual aids to help give you an idea of, okay, well, what does that look like when I try to add in meals and snacks? It doesn't have to be complicated. It can be simple. We just want to bring that complexity to optimize fullness. Another question that I get from students, as long as I've been working as a dietitian, beyond working with students, will be about calories. And I think it's really important to be aware of calories and how they contribute to weight management, but I generally do not recommend strict calorie counting. That would usually be a last resort for me. I really like to default more to focusing on the overall balance of the plate and the food groups, and focusing on some of those other tips about timing and spacing of meals and how we build our meals and snacks. And if we really hyper focus on calories, we tend to lose sight of some of the other important components like balance of nutrients and those other tips and just moderation overall. So it's not typically my go-to, But I do think it is helpful to have a knowledge base of calories and how that impacts us, and maybe where we kind of spend our calories and where we would like to spend our calories, and have those options that we can work out through our own decisions. But typically I find when we focus on healthy behaviors, a healthy weight for us will follow. That being said, I did get several questions about fad diets. So I just wanted to talk about that briefly, and some things that kind of let you know that something's a fad diet is it's often a short-term or quick fix. Might have some interesting or odd food combinations. They might be effective for weight loss, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they are healthy for the long term. So here are a few of the fad diets that I hear most often when I'm working with clients. And I really prefer to move away from the diet mentality and embrace that all foods can fit mentality. And on this next slide, there are some questions that you could ask yourself if you're thinking about, well, is this a fad diet? Is this appropriate for me? Typically, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. You want to ask yourself, who's promoting this diet and what do they have to gain from doing so? And there might be one small, maybe even poorly designed piece of research or study to support this, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's good research. So we want a collective large body of evidence to support any type of diet. And there's no one food, there's no one single ingredient that can meet all of our needs as human beings. So we want to get a variety of foods and a variety of food groups to help us achieve optimal health. The next question we want to ask ourselves when we're thinking about making adjustments and changes to our eating habits or even our exercise habits would be, is this something I can maintain for a lifetime? And if it's highly restrictive, it probably won't be something that we can include. So if there was a recommendation to never have bread again or never eat ice cream again, I'm out. I'm not on board for that plan. I want to include those things in moderation in a healthy way. And we want to be mindful too about how some of that diet mentality has the potential to perpetuate eating disorder thoughts or eating disorder behaviors. So that's always a little bit of a red flag for me. Another thing that I've listed here are a couple of websites that I really like for recipes. I get questions about this often. Budget Bites, I am a little bit biased and partial to just because it was created by an LSU graduate, but both are amazing, especially concerning budget, which is a concern I think for everyone right now, especially students. So these are great resources for recipes, which leads perfectly into my next slide, talking about just having a game plan. And when we are going through the 3 Ps that I have here, the planning phase involves, we want to have some recipes in mind that we're thinking about making. And we want to identify those recipes and identify, do we have the supplies and items that we need in order to make that recipe? So we want to identify those in advance and then make our grocery list based off of that, as well as maybe any other staple items we might want to include. From there, we want to actually go to the store, or in many cases right now, consider delivery or curbside pickup. And you want to have that thought out in advance and not go into the store and wing it. We want to have a plan prior to going into the grocery store. And then from the purchasing, moving on to preparing, once we get home, wash, chop up any items that need preparation, cook and potentially batch cook and freeze items. Again, I could go into lots of tips about this, but these are just some of the basics to help you get started there. Also, I included a few resources here for more information: choosemyplate.gov, eatright.org, and of course, you could always schedule with any of our providers in any of the clinics at the Student Health Center, but I also included this beautiful rainbow here to remind me to mention to eat a variety of colors of foods because this helps us to get a variety of vitamins and minerals and nutrients. That's kind of the end of my slides there. Paul, is there anything that has come up that in terms of questions?
So I think on there, fantastic job, by the way. I think that's really great stuff. One question that did come up were, what are your top 3 breakfast go-tos? I know earlier you talked about breaking the fast and you gave some examples, but what do you find works best for you, and how do you think that might be able to apply to others?
Sure. I can definitely share some of mine and some of the ones that I think works well with some of the clients that I've worked with. I have to admit, I'm a cereal girl. I find that really easy. So cereal, milk, and then usually I have either some type of like nut butter, like peanut butter, or a spoonful of peanut butter, or grab a handful of nuts. That is like as quick as it gets. So that's a really easy one for me. I also, myself personally, and a lot of clients, if they like eggs, might do something like eggs and either a whole grain toast, or maybe they even do grits. Sometimes I throw in a waffle for funsies. And then another food group. Maybe, again, you might have a piece of fruit with that, or maybe even some milk or yogurt. So there's lots of options. Another popular one would be something like, oh, this is so good. This is one of my favorites. Oatmeal. I usually make it with milk. And also I add a spoonful of peanut butter and throw in some bananas and cinnamon. Delicious. So those are some of my go-tos. And another popular one for clients would be like yogurt, fruit, and granola.
Well, that always sounds delicious. I really, really like your plan, purchase, purpose. That's really extremely valuable for us, especially right now, trying to be intentional as we walk into the store and make sure that we have everything there. Now, one thing I've always heard is when you have that plan, you purchase it and you bring it home, is to whatever meal you plan to make off of those items, to go ahead and prepare that right when you get home. That once you get that delay of kind of, oh, I'll just put it in the fridge, I'll get back to it later, you end up not eating it as quickly, or you're not,
Right.
you end up going bad over time. Is that something you found as well?
Yes. So I have found for myself personally and my family, as well as many clients that I've worked with, I might not cook the same day as I grocery shop because I feel like that's a lot. But for some people that works. So you have to kind of work through it and identify. But for my family, we definitely do some grocery shopping, and then the next day or early on in the week, prepare some food. So some people do it same day, but I agree with you 100%. We want to try and do it on the front end because it makes it so much easier to just do what I call heat and eat. And that way it's already done and we don't have to worry about cooking when we're hungry.
That's perfect. And obviously right now, everyone's sitting at home and they're like, all right, that pantry is right around the corner. I can get to it so easily. What are some of your favorite tips to be like, all right, maybe I stay away. Maybe it's I grab a glass of water, or maybe it's a walk. What works best for you?
I think it's really important to distinguish between physical hunger and mental and emotional hunger. So I don't want to discourage someone from having a snack if they're physically hungry. And that's where that timing and spacing really comes into play, because we can also use that somewhat as a guide to reflect back and be like, does it make sense that I would be hungry right now? And to work through some of those other things. Have I had enough water? But one of the things that helps me distinguish between true physical hunger and mental or emotional hunger is sometimes I literally have to touch my stomach and close my eyes and say, am I hungry here in my stomach, or am I hungry here? And when we're hungry here, sometimes that might mean that we want to manage that in another way, or even just being aware of that is really helpful. So those would be my tips there.
Great tips. Those are awesome. I've sent a question out to the group asking if anyone has any questions. This is a great time to go ahead and add those into the group chat. I know right now someone is looking for the websites for the recipes. So we'll make sure that those are definitely posted up there and available. Does anyone else have any questions at this time that maybe we can help answer? And as those are getting posted in, thank you again so much for coming out today. This is a great conversation for us. Obviously, getting a lot of those questions in on the front end really helps us to prepare and make sure that we have the best possible answers, both for our co-host with Emily, making sure that she has time to prepare for all of this, but also to make sure that we have everything possible ready for you as the listener. So that's great for us. Right now, I'm not seeing any more questions in there. Emily, anything else you want to add for everybody who's listening in today?
Stay safe.
Stay safe. All right, that's awesome. We are going to go ahead and wrap up. We do have a few more sessions that are going to be posted up on the LSU University Recreation website. We're going to be working with a bunch of members on our fitness and wellness team. A few of them are in the chat today. We have one coming up in 2 weeks with Melissa Mapson, and then another one coming up the following week with Ethan Kerr. Both of them are coordinators for fitness and wellness for us at the UREC. So those are going to be great conversations about positive psychology, workout plans, all great ideas to kind of get us ready to go as hopefully we get an opportunity to return to the gym when everything is safe and get some of that physical well-being out there that we all know we need right now. So Emily, if you have nothing else to add for us, I think we're good for today.
Just thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Emily. Obviously, go ahead and check out the Student Health Center website for all the services that they provide. Go ahead and check out our website as well at lsuuniversityrec.edu. We have our Group X classes up there. We're offering up to 18 classes a week right through virtual classes. So sign up for them on there. Those are free. Anyone can use them if you want to. So that's going to be a great opportunity for you to get those workouts in while you're still at home. All right. Take care, everyone. Thanks again for all of your time, and thanks for signing up. Have a good one. Go Tigers.
Go Tigers.